Hi, I'm Charlotte.
Hi, I'm Sara.
Hi, I'm Jeandre.
Hi, I'm Ellie.
Hi, I'm Ella.
Hi, I'm Alex.
So today we're talking about sex, one of my favourite topics of conversation. That often, nice mug, Sarah, love it. That often women talking about sex can be seen as like gross or, full on. And obviously men like to make sexual jokes, talk about sex with their mates. And I think that women should be able to do that as well. Anyone?
Yeah, absolutely. Being able to do that as well without being seen as like anything. Like if a woman says, "Oh, I don't like sex," that prude, virgin, all that like connotations. And if they do like it, then obviously slut, hoe.
Yeah.
I also
Yeah.
think that like when a woman does talk about sex, a guy's reaction is probably more likely to be like, that's hot, like it's provocative, like not necessarily like.
Yeah. No, I feel like there was a guy I was friends with in school, and like his reasoning, explanation behind why he thinks that women get more stick than men do is because it's easier for women to sleep with a lot of guys because sex is always readily available to us, like the majority of the time, because of how sexualized we are. So men seem to, in his head, it was like that men get more praise when they sleep with women because it's actually hard for them, whereas it's not as hard for us. So that's why he thinks women get shamed for it, which isn't fair at all. Like, even though, yes, I completely see it's true, just because we can get it more easily doesn't mean that we still can't have as much sex as we want just because it's not as easy for someone else to get it. But I think that's kind of where some guys stand on it. I don't really know.
Makes more sense though. It makes more sense that like the reasons why we don't talk about it as openly is because there's this constant like uh systematic like, oh, okay, if we talk about sex too much, as we've already mentioned, then we're sluts. If we don't talk about it at all, then we're prudes. And it just feels like that cycle is like we just don't have the ability to talk about it the way other people talk about it because it's like it's not right for women to talk about it, and it gets internalized from like a young age. I don't know.
It's funny, isn't it? I remember when I spoke to some of my guy friends who I was like really comfortable with, and they were comfortable with me. I knew they wouldn't like judge me, and I started talking about sex, and I think we brought up the conversation of porn, and I was like, "Oh yeah, like I watch porn," and they were like, "Oh, like really?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, like it's not a weird thing. Like I know a lot of people who watch porn. I also know a lot of people who are uncomfortable watching porn, which is okay, totally valid. But that's a different conversation."
My dad actually asked that question. Was like, do girls watch porn? I didn't say anything because I thought it was such a stupid question, and I like, and also because
Dumbass.
I was too awkward to say anything in the first place. But I was like, I don't know why you're asking me this. But even if you were, that's a really stupid question to ask. But also, it's probably in that space where we're supposed to be able to talk about those, but we don't actually. I feel like what some men and people don't realize is that there's multiple ways of accessing porn that isn't just watching some really over sexualized video, but there's also like erotic literature and those kind of things as well. And like, I don't know, illustrations and cartoons and that kind of stuff. So I don't know. There's a lot of access points to porn that I think men don't actually understand, where they can't visualize women watching some of this like really depraved porn that's out there that isn't actually taking women's considerations like into consideration.
Can I say, like, basically on your point, your point, your point that porn is in the male gaze. I think like that is probably something to do with the fact that women aren't encouraged to talk about sex because they're kind of seen as the object. They're not seen as someone who's supposed to enjoy it. Or in porn, it's always from the male gaze and for the male satisfaction. So I think that probably kind of links into the societal way we've grown up, that women just aren't supposed to talk about it.
And I'd add to that as well. Obviously, you're saying about like society and how we've been grown up like that. But if you think about sex education in school, we're always told that the way a baby is made, like to have a baby, you have to have sex. And during sex, in order for a baby to be made, a man has to ejaculate, come inside a woman. There's no talk about like the female orgasm or anything like that. So even from like school years, like not even I understand maybe from like just teaching the basics to younger kids, but even like secondary schools, I think there needs to be some sort of education on the female orgasm, because from my experience as well, some men really do not know what it is, what they have to do, and like anything about it. And I'm, like, and to be honest, I actually almost feel a little bit of sorry for men for not knowing, because if they were actually educated, it would probably be a lot less awkward.
Mm-hmm. But like, I think sex education and porn and everything like that, and just sex on a whole, I think not only is seen from a male point of view, but also from a heterosexual point of view. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
There was no education on like gay sex either.
There was no like actual education on how else you can really have kids. Like,
exactly.
Literally, a man puts his penis.
The whole focus is on the men, and I think that is because for women it is taboo still, and I don't think it should be.
I was actually like, this is a really ridiculous place to bring it from, but I had watched the TV show Bridgerton on the thing, and and on that I had this concept of like women like girls going into marriage, like into this whole ceremony of like they need to find someone to get married to and have children. They don't understand what sex is at all. They don't even know how they get pregnant. All they know is that they need to do something and that gets them pregnant, but they don't understand that this whole ejaculation like come situation that makes them pregnant. And that's because I think that's pulling from a history of sexual education was used to oppress women. It was always used to like, even not even from men to women, but from oppressing the working class people, like just not even working class, in the ruling class, women didn't know what to do because they didn't want to give women the power to be more powerful than men, and knowledge is power, and therefore being sexually liberated is also part of that power and freedom. So I was just that, yeah.
Do you guys, has anyone here seen Game of Thrones?
No.
I've watched bits of it, but it makes me so uncomfortable.
I read 5 books.
There you go. Well, just on that last point, there's a scene where anyway, Daenerys Targaryen, she basically is having a really bad sex life with her arranged husband, Drogo, I believe. Is it Drogo? Khal Drogo. And she then asks one of the other maids, like, how can I make this sex life better? Because basically she's a baby machine. He basically rapes her like all the time. And she's like, this is my duty, so she has to be okay with it. And this other woman is like, well, take the power back. And they have like a little gay scene, which is really great in my opinion. And basically then she mounts Khal Drogo, and he's like, ooh, what is this? Submissive? And basically they end up like actually falling in love because she basically took the power back. And I just thought that was I literally watched it like 5 years ago, but I was like, that's a really powerful moment, and it totally related to that point. So yeah.
And the whole good thing about that is that it empowers both her and Khal Drogo. Like, that's the whole thing of empowering women, empowers both like the male and the woman and the envies and the gays and everyone. Like, that's the thing, it's empowering for everyone.
That is such a good point.
Definitely. I feel like women should be allowed to have the power, but I think also sometimes when you have the powerful or the dominant woman, a lot of that, some men are quite uncomfortable with that, and even if secretly they're into it, they may not let it happen. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like some guys are a bit apprehensive to, explain that's what they want, because, they don't want it to be like they've got the power over them. And then you've got the whole thing about, people
masculinity, fragile masculinity.
Yeah.
But you know what that like instantly all I could think of was like pegging and like dominatrix. Like, men that do want to be submissive actually end up having to pay for it if because they might not be comfortable speaking to their partner saying I want this, but also maybe their partner's not comfortable being the dominant one. But also like, go ahead and ask a guy if he would ever allow a woman to peg him.
I've got a guy that invited me over today to do such a thing.
And
do it.
Is it the stallion of a man?
No. I had uni work to do. I didn't go.
Love that, responsibilities. On that topic of pegging, there was a point that was brought up earlier. I can't remember. I think it was pleasure in sex education in school. We were talking about that earlier, and I was thinking about it. And obviously, there is I don't know whether it's a G spot, but there is a G spot in your ass.
That's what I mean,
right? And I'm just thinking, like, imagine if when we got taught about sex ed, we were taught both women and men have a pleasure point in our ass, how would that go down with kids? School kids probably wouldn't take that very well. They would laugh.
They think it's
hilarious.
I think gradually over time it would become the norm. If you were just to start implementing that right now, gradually everyone, but just because that's a way of getting pleasure doesn't mean everyone's going to do it.
Yeah, true. But it links into gay sex as well, like stereotypical male gay sex.
Yeah. I mean, I think also, to be fair, having spoken to some men about how they would feel about pegging, not asking to do it, BT dubs, just like discussing it, they have said like, no, that's gay. And I'm like, well, see, just because you're having something up the bum and enjoying it, potentially, doesn't mean you're gay. The whole point of being gay as a male...
Unless it's a rainbow pegging stick, then it's gay.
Oh, then it's super gay.
I just think the pegging and with men, you know, wanting to not be submissive, I think it's not good for men either. Obviously, we're saying from a woman's perspective, we can vouch for the fact that we're like submissive in the sexual scene, whatever. It's not great. But say from a man's point of view, he's really got a lot of kind of pressure to be the dominant one and to lead everything and to initiate everything. And I think that's probably quite fragile. It makes them feel a bit fragile as well. Like they don't want to admit maybe when they want the other person to take charge.
Also, especially if they're quite a shy like man, they might not feel comfortable making the first move anyway.
Mm.
I really, really feel so strongly about normalizing girls making the first move, because I'm bi, right? So I've made moves to both girls and guys. And whenever I make a move to a guy, like a strong move, like being very outspoken, being very like, yeah, I want you, let's do this. They're always like, damn, like this girl is like really, I don't know, promiscuous. She really wants me. Or if they're really timid, they're like, oh my God, I feel really uncomfortable. She's really dominant. Nah, mate, I just want to get you in the sack. Like, come on, let's go.
So yeah, going off of Ella's point about women making the first move and, you know, being more forward, I kind of, and about how easy it is, when we were talking earlier, how easy it is for women to get sex even. I kind of demonstrated it all in one, like a 10-minute conversation I had with someone yesterday. I turned my Tinder on to men because I was bored, and I will freely admit that. And I matched with this guy and was just like, you know what, just going to completely put myself out there. I mean, it's not like I do that infrequently anyway, but I did. And literally he was like inviting me around to his like there and then after a 10-minute conversation, just from putting myself out there. And it kind of links to, you know, being promiscuous, that, you know, they feel like they're just being offered it on a plate, then they're just going to snap it up like that if that's what they're in it for. But then I have had it where I tried to make a move on someone and they literally just looked me straight in the face and went, I'm not really sure what you want. I was like, I'm not really sure how much more obvious I can be. And then I just had to say it plain and simple, like what it was.
I want to have sex with you.
Yeah, I actually did say that, and it in my chest I was like, I can't believe I'm saying this.
Like write down I have consent and then your signature on a napkin and be like,
we were literally lying on my bed next to each other and I had to look at them and be like, this is what's happening. Like,
do you want this?
Yeah, do you want a bit? Do you want some? That's 2 examples in the space of a fortnight in my life. Yeah. One, promiscuous, offering it on a plate, and the other, shy person being a little bit uncomfortable.
I feel like a reason why is also about like why some guys are like a lot more quick to jump to sex is because there isn't that threat there for them that they have to worry about. Whereas, you know, we're not just gonna go on a date nap and be like, yeah, sure, I'm gonna come to your house. Like, if it's a guy, because yeah, it's a completely different thing. Then it's a completely different worry that you have. Like the worst case scenario for, you know, the majority of men is that, you know, it's no, like, that's kind of what can happen to them. But worst case scenario for us is we're raped and put in a freezer bag and we're left and no one knows where we are for about like a week. Like, well, that's where mine goes anyway.
Absolutely.
I also, like, I don't know about you guys, but so I actually met my boyfriend on Tinder and we've now been together for over 2 years. And like, I was petrified when I first met up with him because I was like, I'm gonna get like murdered. This is awful. So I brought my flatmate with me to pick him up and everything, and like we brought him to the flat, and it was me, him, and 2 female flatmates, and we were just watching The Conjuring, and that was our first date because I was too scared to go anywhere where I felt unsafe, whatever. But
So you watched a horror movie. Good start.
to see how much of a pussy he was.
Weeding out the weak ones.
No, I'm joking. But I literally had to FaceTime him like so many times before meeting him because I was that scared. It's definitely true that like there is more of a concern and a worry, and I don't think actually a lot of men actually understand that when they do invite you over. They're like, oh, come over, and you're like, if you say like no, and I'm not gonna name names because I don't want to get sued, but I had like some famous dude, right, genuinely, he followed me on Instagram and he was like, do you want to come to a hotel with me tonight? I'm in your area. Like, we'd been chatting a little bit before, like he had me on Snapchat and stuff, and I said no because I'm kind of like apprehensive, and like from things in my past I don't really feel safe doing that. And he literally, his response was, he was so angry at me, and he was like, do you not understand how much of a big opportunity this is for you? Like, do you know how many girls would kill to be in this position? Like, I have girls message me
he's
all
not
the
made
time.
of gold, like cheese.
He's also not like all that, in my opinion. Yeah, he literally blocked me on everything after that because I'd said no to going to a hotel room with him. And I'm like, do you not understand that I felt unsafe?
His loss and your gain. That's
definitely his loss.
I do think the disparity there that we have to see is that, like, so I've never been in like a heterosexual relationship. I identify as queer. All the relationships I've been in have been queer relationships, and weirdly, like, I don't know if this is like, it probably shouldn't be this way, but I feel safer meeting up with like someone who is queer that I've never met before than someone who isn't, which is like,
So do I.
Yeah. And I really do think that there is a real reason why that is there in society, why we have been conditioned into feeling unsafe around men, because half the time we are, and we do have to be careful, and it has to work like both ways and that kind of thing. And because just because you say you want to meet up doesn't mean that's the same as consent, and that all of that jazz. So yeah.
I think as well, like, I don't know about you guys, but I know with my mom, the one phrase she always says is, it's about respecting your body. And I'm like, yeah, but okay, what does that mean for me? Because do I want to respect myself, or do I want other people to respect me? And if I sleep with other people, does that mean I'm disrespecting myself, or does that mean that people are going to disrespect me because I'm having sex with people?
I think that's a really, really good point. The idea of respect yourself. It's like, yeah, I can respect myself and have sex
and respecting
5 times a week. Like, that is, like, yeah.
And this is what I literally had this conversation with her over the phone the other day, mostly actually talking about school uniforms, because I was saying about how I don't like how they expect, like, I was saying, like, in my sixth form we weren't allowed to wear like a strappy t-shirt or top like that.
I got sent home for wearing this t-shirt once.
Because they said that our shoulders were provocative. We went to the same sixth form, me and Ella, and we were told that our shoulders were provocative and would make male teachers uncomfortable. And I was trying to talk to my mum about this, and she said it's just about respecting your body and like not showing everyone your body. And I'm like, but it's my shoulder.
Yeah.
What is my shoulder going to do other than shoulder butt you if you're inappropriate to me? Nothing. Like,
yeah.
I can't, that for me is like a big thing. Like, and I've always been really interesting. Now I'm actually saying it out loud. I've actually never like fully said this out loud, but I actually read a magazine, obviously like a very female oriented, like it's aimed at females, and it was something like, if you sleep with over 20 people, you're unlikely to ever get married, or something like that. And so I've always been so conscious, like, I never want to go over the number 20.
I was like that. Like, I've always been scared that I'd forget my own body count. And if I had to remember now, I think it would take me a while, not because there's so many, but just because some of them were so meaningless. Some of them I actually just want to forget. You know, there are so many different reasons why some of them I just hope that I'll never remember. But I absolutely have that fear of like going over a certain number and then that number stays the same for life. And it's like, why does that fucking matter?
Like, you can't go. This is what I mean, I've slept with more people than my boyfriend, and I thought genuinely that was going to be an issue, and I actually was really self-conscious of it at first, and I was like God, like I really expected him to be like double mine. Like I was just like, God, like this is how the times have changed. I was like, and it took me a while to be really like at peace with that idea, because I
be okay with yourself.
Yeah.
I literally did. I felt like a slag.
I
He's got a
think
job I
the
don't.
issue with like a body count though is body count has become such a demeaning thing, where actually body count is more important for your sexual health than it is for who you are. Like just because you have no body count or a lot of body count doesn't change you as a person, so it shouldn't be that demeaning thing of a slut or this. Yes, it's brilliant, like you feel more comfortable, you're more experienced and that kind of thing. I think that's really empowering no matter where your body count is. I don't know, it's just like it has changed from a matter of health to a matter of like I don't know, when did people start counting how many people they sleep with? Did they count it as a trophy thing, or is it even from like in the 70s and 80s when gay people had to know how many people they slept with and who they had slept with because of HIV/AIDS? Like those things are like the like, to me that's where a body count is important if you need to track back, but not so much for
I think so. I think as well, like it might be a trophy for men, for example, but for me, I would 100%, I don't feel like my body count is a trophy. In fact, I would love to get rid of at least 90% of it, because I'm so ashamed of the fact that like it is what it is, and I hope I get to a point one day where I can just be like, I don't care.
I know there's like all this stigma about this phrase body count. I hadn't heard of that phrase until coming on this call, and I don't know if that's I don't know. I haven't been, well, I do live on the Isle of Man, but I haven't been living under a rock, so I don't know. It's something that I've never really considered at all, and I really don't think it's important. Like, whoever you're with, if you care about them and you want to be with them, I don't think anything in the past really matters.
You know, I literally made a list like the other day of everyone that I've slept with and tried to remember them in order, because I was worried as well that I was, you know, gonna start forgetting. And I made the list and I forgot about 2 people on that list, and I got the orders completely wrong as well. But I feel like, I don't know, I mean, I dated a guy, well, I'm seeing a guy who I've got a far higher body count than he has, and yeah, I mean, it made me feel a type of way. I feel like if I'm around someone who I know has a higher body count, I'm like not as self-conscious about saying it. But with him, I was like, oh well, yeah, but like I think I was just in like a bad place, and that's why I did this, and like I felt like I had to explain why my body count was a lot more higher than his. Yeah, that's an issue that I have to deal with. That like around certain types of people, I feel like I have to like adjust for them not to be like, oh, she's a hoe type thing, and like I know myself that I'm not like that bad. But yeah, still, yeah, I don't know. I felt like I had to.
Sorry.
No,
how would you classify bad? Like you're saying you're not that bad, but the only part of me that thinks it's bad is if you're not being safe, because safety for me, like you don't want to get pregnant, you don't want STIs, you know, you don't want to be put in a position where you are going to be raped and put in a freezer bag. Like
no, yeah, you're right. There is no real like bad number at all. But like in terms of being like only 19 years old, I think if my number was like, you know, like 300, 400, I think that's fair enough to agree that there's probably like something not right.
Mathematically, how would that be possible?
I think I know what you're talking about though, because it's like we want to become like the whole like thing with sex and stuff is like it's really important for us to explore and learn more about our bodies and take our time in doing that kind of thing. But we also want to be at a place where we are actually choosing to have sex for the right reasons. And I think so many women and people have found that where, yeah, they like whether they're having sex with like 5 different people a week or not, as long as they're doing it for them, I think that like there's a level of selfishness when it comes to sex or not sex, like having sex, and it's really on a personal level. Whereas oftentimes from a young age, because we're so discouraged from exploring with our bodies, we come across so many encounters that we regret in a bad way. Not regret like, oh, I regret this, but it was a learning experience. I regret this because this was bad, and I feel like the more that we get education, like I'm bringing it back to education, it's the way body count is presented in movies and the way education is presented in schools that that shame is built up rather than us breaking that shame away.
There's actually a girl who's on the channel. She hasn't yet like been involved in the videos yet, but she's very keen to be. I really wanted her to be in this one because she's called Simone. I actually met up with her during the little break of COVID when the lockdown restrictions were kind of like cut off for a bit, which was dumb. But we went for a little walk, and we were actually talking about how in secondary school we felt, I don't know if you guys felt it, but we felt a serious pressure to not be virgins and to have sex and have stuff to actually talk about. And we said like a lot of the time people were talking about stuff, but I mean, it might not have been true what they were saying. They might have just been saying it because they felt the same pressure. But like, we also said that we felt like we had to, I don't know how to word this, but this is something I've really struggled with until like the last couple of years, is that I had to because the man wanted to, like, he wanted to, I'm in this position, and I almost like I can say no, but what's the point? And I don't know, like I've always kind of just been like, well,
when sex is a sense of duty rather than something for you.
Basically, yeah. But then the more I've like grown and realized that no, I am a pretty girl, and to be honest, there are probably quite a few people who'd want to sleep with me, not necessarily if they're attracted to me, maybe just because they're horny. Thanks, Ella. Nice. Like, do you know what I mean? And I'm like, so to like knowing my worth has really helped me with that, but we're not really ever taught that. We're not ever said know your worth. And I think instead of saying like respect yourself, because I think that can be taken in so many different ways, I think knowing your worth is so much more, and like knowing you are pretty and knowing that you can sleep with 100 people, you can sleep with one, as long as you are happy with the way it went, you felt safe, blah 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 blah, and you still think, you know, they were lucky to sleep with me because I'm gorgeous, I'm pretty damn awesome, and I'm great in bed. Like, you want those to be the reasons
so ready
why.
to expose
Yes.
Like, you want
so
that to be
ready
the
to
reason. I mean, go ahead.
Well, it kind of links to what you've all been saying, like the whole thing about, you know, what would you class as bad in school, feeling like you had to. So I could have lost my virginity 4 years earlier than I did. The opportunity was there, and when I say 4 years earlier, I mean I literally would have been 13 at that point. Like, it's a bit dodge, but like it doesn't matter. That's, you know, whatever. I'm fine. But the opportunity was there. However, didn't have sex the first time till I was 17, and I tried really, really hard to fight that pressure in school, because my friends at the time were all having sex from the age of 13, and I was like, oh no, I don't want to do that. I'm not quite ready for that, so I didn't.
I've heard a couple of guy friends say that, like, oh, they've told a girl they've loved them before, like, just to get them in the thing. But yeah, I'm honest.
I want to add to that, say about men saying like leading a girl on in that way in order to have sex with them, because this is another thing I find, like, or found as a girl, is that before I'd lost my virginity, I was always told it has to mean something. You know, this is your first time. You have to be in like a relationship. And to be honest,
the stigma.
I went to like an all girls school for like the first 5 years of high school, and like, yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like I wouldn't say there was anywhere near as much pressure as guys get, to be fair, about losing your virginity, but I was the first in my friend group that did. And then whenever I did move to like a mixed school, the way like guys would kind of treat, you know, the guys in the class who still were virgins was completely different than how like I treated like my friends. Like, whenever like, you know, they would say that they're not ready type thing, it was, well, for me anyway, and like a lot of the girls I was friends with, it was like quite a, yeah, like, that's so like, yeah, wait for your time and like all this kind of thing. And I think that women can be more like gentle and easy in that way, because it is seen as, I mean, I've always like been told as well, like, that it's a special thing. And like, yeah, I mean, I waited till like I was like madly in love with like my first boyfriend and like all this shit before I did it. And no, I feel like, I mean, I know for a fact that I definitely get on better with boys most of the time. Like, I have majority guy friends. Like, I have like a couple of like, you know, close girlfriends, and like Charlotte as well, like she's on campus, like, type of thing. But yeah, I feel like being friends with guys, like, in the last couple of years, I've definitely like heard a lot more from their perspective.
Oh,
Guys
yeah,
think
yeah.
you are so cool when you're a girl that's open about sex.
They really do. They love it. I mean, some of my guy mates still look at me and they're like, "Did you really just say that?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I did. Yes, I did." That just
I think
came
it's
out like
refreshing. I think it might be like refreshing for them though, because that's not how the majority of women are, because we're not encouraged to be that way.
yeah. I think some guys want to
They're
talk.
just like, wow.
I have to say, I grew up extremely prudish. In fact, I think my parents thought I was too prudish. Like, from my parents, I'm from my family's quite Christian, but my parents still thought I was way too prudish because I got angry at them. We visited London, we went to the museum, and they took me into the Greek section, and there was all these naked statues. I was 11 at the time. I got so mad at them for taking me into there because I didn't want my brain was like, I don't want to see these naked statues, and I didn't want I was so prudish when I was younger, and I've slowly started growing out of that prudishness because I now like talking about sex openly and masturbation and all of those different elements, sexuality, exploring, that kind of thing, even though I'm still a virgin. But to me it's really important that it is comfortable to talk about that in society and talk about boundaries and talk about where what it means to us as individuals. So I completely still understand. I find it uncomfortable watching a movie with someone else where there's a sex scene. It internally, it's still been made a private thing, even
I
though
can't even do it on my
I
own.
don't want it. I don't think it's always a private thing. There's certain privacy, and then there's no, because we need to talk about the sex scenes are a whole nother level.
I loved that you mentioned feeling embarrassed and prudish, you said, about seeing these naked statues, because why is it we can see boobs on a statue that's thousands of years old or hundreds of years old or whatever, if I'm being exaggerating and that stuff, but on Instagram those nipples get censored? Why is that?
Yeah,
I know, it's the same thing.
that is such a good point.
Art.
I swear you're allowed art because I draw nudes, right?
Do you?
Yeah, yes, Ella, I do.
Really?
I draw your nudes.
Go shut up. But it's true.
I'm on there.
Go
in
check
my
them out.
Don't worry about it.
I've drawn so many girls naked, right? And
Instagram
I've never been
will be down
censored.
below, guys. Go check it out.
Yeah, I'll put it on there. But I've never, ever, ever been censored, and I'm literally there's a nipple right there.
And on that note, sex is obviously a really broad topic, and I think we've covered a lot of the main points in this video, but there are still so many things we could talk about, so I think we'll definitely be doing another one. But that's it from us today. All of our social media will be in the description, and please like, comment and subscribe. Bye.